pink
Yeah.
and purple phlox. And so if you see a phlox planting and you see a white plant intermingled in it, they're pretty rare. It's pretty cool to see the white version. But yeah, they're all over everywhere, the phlox.
So I'm looking at this email, going back to that, and Bettina says that there's movements around, not mowing and wildflowers in the roadside and whatnot. And Mary Alford, she says, is involved to some extent, and she's wondering if we're interested, she can recruit maybe a potential speaker. So I'd say we could go ahead and tell her to do that. Right?
Nisha, there might be somebody at UF. I know when I was center director up on the Panhandle at Quincy, there was a faculty member at the research center there in Quincy, whose basically his job was wildflowers. He worked on propagating them. He worked on weed control, all kinds of stuff. I don't think he's around anymore, but the environmental horticulture department on campus I'll pull them up here on my other monitor and see if I can find if they've got a faculty member that works.
That'd be great.
There might be somebody on campus that is actually doing this kind of research, like Jeff was wondering about.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. At least go ahead. Yeah.
Just a quickie. I've got a question about, I looked at the list of topics that we're discussing, and we've pursued climate change, which I think is, of course, extremely important. I'm just wondering whether Mark can point out what the climate committee has been doing and whether we could perhaps focus on some other possible doable things or of similar, maybe not equal, but somewhat similar importance other than climate change.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nisha.
Oh, I was just going to say, I believe David was going to talk to the commissioners and get feedback from them on topics that we could do, that we could cover without the pretext of climate change. So so he might have some suggestions ready, coming directly from the commissioners, which would be great because those things would definitely be relevant to the issues that they're working on.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well,
I was just going to say in support of what George just said, and I really was thinking I was not going to say this evening, but geez Louise, this is great. I've been thinking, I'm in the environmental field. I deal with this every single day. I get the Florida Environmental Report, this, that, whatever. And I agree with George. I think we need to move on to some more practical things. I think I've brought it up in the past, but recently I read that one of the counties, I don't know, down southwest of us, is going to spend a great deal of their funds from wherever the government sends funds from, to get these people off of septic systems. And I also, I mean, I'm an environmentalist. I really am. And I just wonder, how can this be when I read every single weekend in the paper about the springs? I care so much about the springs and the environment and all, that I live a couple thousand yards at most from an advanced wastewater treatment plant, which is what I do every single day of my life. And I'm on a septic tank. I'm almost embarrassed. Why can't we do something about getting something going in Alachua County, Gainesville, whatever? I mean, I'm on a septic tank, and this just really bothers me. I'm sorry. It just makes no sense to me. And we talk about global warming and stuff. This is something that we can do. We're concerned about the springs. We're concerned about nitrogen, phosphorus, all these nutrients that lead to the things that, at least if you know what I know, you understand what they do. So my choice is, there's a topic, septic to
I
sewer.
agree.
Septic to sewer. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's shameful that Gainesville, or, I mean, I'm across the street from like Tower Road, so I guess I'm like just in the county, that we don't practice advanced wastewater treatment. That's my speech.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if you were you here at the last meeting?
No, I was in Texas at the Texas wastewater, whatever, the environmental conference.
Okay,
Sorry.
because we did, it was either at that meeting or the one before when we were going over the topics. That one came up, and I think it was universally agreed to be a good topic.
Oh, okay.
To
Sorry.
cover.
Then I'll-
No, I'm just letting
Great.
you know, like, I think everybody's kind of on board, not necessarily as maybe like the number one topic they want to cover. But I think everybody's on board. That's a
Well,
good topic.
but here's what I'm going to tell you as a biologist and someone in this field and that's done this for a very long time. Probably one of the most impactful things we could do with respect to protecting the springs, et cetera, is treat our wastewater, if you will, to advanced, levels that we have the technology to do so. That's all I'm saying. And I chuckle that I'm this close to this advanced wastewater treatment plant, and I've got a septic tank. It just bothers me. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, it makes sense to cover that on a local level, and just Florida in general. I mean, water is a huge issue. So I think it's a great topic. I'm curious, to hear what the commissioners, said as well. But yeah, I mean, that one, it kind of hits all of the bases that we've been kind of emphasizing, which, are, something local, something actionable, and something that can have a real impact. So yeah, it's a good one. But hopefully, I don't know where David is. He was going to present on the rights of clean water and what he's been working on with respect to that. And then I guess maybe give us an update on his conversations with the commissioners. So it was the David show, or it is the David show today's agenda. So hopefully he'll come.
I think he said he'd try to make it. I was kind of surprised too. Let me look real quick. He sent me an email. I think he had something, health issue he had to address, so he might not make it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know he's been having issues with his energy levels and like really low iron. So that's been a struggle for him lately.
So with that in mind, I didn't know if, and I appreciate you explaining to that, because I was kind of like, when you asked you to comment, I was going to tell Jeff the same thing, that the committee made the decision to kind of focus more locally, think globally, act locally, and trying to look at what environmental issues locally to address that may be a subset of what the committee was looking at, from a global approach. So,
Well, I'm just telling you that I'm a ardent newspaper reader, and I can tell you my life story and all that, but whatever. When I read literally every weekend in the Sunday paper in particular, all of and I agree with them, to protect the springs and everything, Dr. Knight, Scott, whatever, others and whatever. And it's like, and in Alachua County, we're still allowing septic tanks. I'm not up to speed on the contribution of agriculture versus municipal, whatever. But the idea, if you're really serious about protecting these springs, which are extraordinarily special and need to be protected at all costs, we shouldn't be using septic tanks in Alachua County. That's all I'm saying. And I just said,
Well,
Yeah.
there's the issue that there are many people who live so far away from
right?
the logistically feasible
Mhm.
facilities that we should also, in my mind, be also looking at other means of handling. And of course, in my mind, you guys probably know that I really like the idea of composting, especially composting toilets along the Santa Fe River, along river systems that are immediately there. Because those people along the rivers of Alachua County are
Right.
probably not going to get, despite anyone's best efforts, sewer systems for a
Correct.
very long time.
Right.
But the other approach is doable on an individual house by house basis. If there are incentives, reimbursement by state and local government.
Yeah, for existing the residences, I would agree with that. But new development, it should be mandated. And I can tell
Yeah.
you, there are advances in the septic tank, if you will, the single use, literally advanced wastewater treatment plant in your backyard.
Huh.
You can literally, if it's mandated, it's not extraordinary, but whatever. We cut down trees, we can save the environment, okay? It's a little
Well,
bit extra, but you can put
So-
almost an advanced wastewater treatment plant in a single use septic tank type
So-
system in your yard.
just I can add a little context to some of this. We're actually working on a project right now for Swanee River Water Management District, and this is one of the focuses. You are required in a large part of the county, all of the portion of the county that's covered in the Santa Fe River Basin Management Action Plan area, which is most of Alachua County and then part of adjacent counties. On any lot under 1 acre to either be hooked up to sewer, or you're required to have one of these either performance-based treatment systems or aerobic treatment unit septic systems. So those are more, I think, what you're referring to in terms of more advanced treatment. They're not as good by any stretch as a wastewater treatment plant, but they are much better than a traditional septic tank.
Right.
They have also allowed for I can't remember the exact name or acronym for it, but it's essentially a drain field based solution. I personally am a bit more skeptical on the performance of those. Just the nature of loading in a septic system, I don't think is likely to keep a drain field saturated consistently enough to provide significant nitrogen removal. I believe that the county, though, and Mark can probably speak to this, but I believe the county is actually doing some research on some of those systems, particularly the drain field systems, to get a better idea of water quality performance for those. But there is currently a rule on the books from DEP that
There's a Wi-Fi problem there.
Scott, you cut
it's
out.
not
We
Wi-Fi,
can't
it's cellular. Can you hear me now or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. I'm sorry, I'm on cellular, so it comes and goes. Where did it cut out?
We can hear you.
You were saying Mark can speak to this, and then it kind of started.
2 years ago, we had a project that you all may have heard of that's called Flint Rock. It's called an agri-hood. It's a subdivision they have some agricultural components, and it's on Parker Road, about 2 miles south of Newberry Road. And there's 97 lots, and they just having the open house in May for the first half dozen houses. The houses on 1 acre lots start at about 1.3 million. all those homes, because they're on soils that are porous, were required to have it, as Scott was indicating, an advanced treatment unit or ATU. The septic system requires a filter in system, and a traditional septic system drain filter will run you about 15 to 20,000. An ATU, the prices have come down to where now that there's more demand for them, there's more suppliers, that a price would be 20 to 25,000. And so it provides an extra layer of nutrient uptake that would, potentially seep into the aquifer. So we worked with county in collaboration with the health department. We had actually an MOU agreement that all houses in that subdivision, when they pull their permits for the septic tank, they know that the contractor and whoever they're using to put the septic, they have to put in the ATU. So, and the health department has to sign off on those approvals. So it's not like, we just said, yeah, it was a handshake agreement, put in ATUs, whenever you can. No, that's what you have to put in that subdivision. So now, granted, when you're buying $1 million house, spending an extra $10,000 for, advanced treatment unit is not a real concern. But we looked at it as the first step towards requiring other subdivisions that, at least out west, would be include more ATUs as a requirement. At the same time, the city of Newberry and High Springs are working together towards building a new package treatment plant to serve both communities, so that they both have a more technology-driven decision on a use of a joint plan. I think they're going to try to bring in Archer, but that's a long way to pump sewer, wastewater. So at the same time, we are currently reviewing around Flint Rock is a 4,000 acre owned by the Lee family right on Parker Road. We're reviewing a plan there to build more houses, unlike the Flint Rock, where they did not have potential for municipal hookup to GRU. The municipal line stops at Oakmont on Parker Road. So what the Lee family or the representatives for the Lee would like to do is work with GRU towards extending those lines south, and pay for that, so that there would be what the problem now is, that GRU cannot do that without expanding what they call the service boundary, or the limits of where their service boundary in terms of what they provide for residents. So on the west side of Parker Road, there's nobody that has that is in the boundary, but we envision, rather than later, it's inevitable that the service boundary is going to be moved west, but we're working towards hopefully being sooner than later, which would then encourage a cost share opportunity, hopefully with GRU, or if development moves as quickly as it is, and maybe they're willing to pay for, just like Oakmont, they may be willing to pay to run the line all the way to get wastewater connection in that southwest part where the review is going on. 90% of our applications, development applications, are in Jonesville. I mean, it's just, and we're getting slammed with new apartment complexes being proposed every month. I guess it's just the wave of the moment, and everybody's trying to capture that. We don't know how long it's going to last, but for now, we have quite a few subdivisions, mostly, like I said, apartments and townhomes in the Jonesville area that are, and fortunately, most of those are on wastewater lines provided by GRU. But once you get outside that service boundary, until the demand is there, which it's there, but it's just GRU cannot allocate enough money towards that area unless there's some cost share agreement with private developers to get those lines extended. Now, the issue about when you get up to like High Springs and you're closer to the springs, and it's cost prohibitive to be able to have a package plant. I mean, High Springs is looking to upgrade theirs, like I said, with Newberry, but for, you know, a single family house on, you know, 2, 5, 10 acres, we're hopeful that as those systems are replaced, that more people would purchase an ATU system. The ATUs require, for the first few years at least, a monitoring program. I think they turn in reports like twice a year, demonstrating that the system's working fine. And that's more to encourage, to show the cost benefit of that, I think, more than anything, because it's such a new technology. It's not that new, but it's new for the, you know, this area that, you know, they're not, like I said, there's probably been only 1 or 2 septic installers that have been carrying ATUs for the last, you know, now that there's more of them, you know, installing them, there's more demand and therefore they will carry them more. But people that generally, if they're tight on money to be able, it used to be an ATU would cost twice as much as a traditional septic system. So people were really leery about purchasing something that was basically an unproven technology until more information was available. And so, but the big issue is like how to, unless you do cost share that from a state level, how are you going to get more of these people replacing their tanks to go to an ATU? That's the thing they're trying to work out in Tallahassee. So.
Just thinking about it, you know, like I said, I do want to hear what the commissioners had to say about topics to cover.
Oh,
But
I'm
but
sorry,
if
I'm sorry, I didn't answer that. David told me that he was planning on meeting with them, but he ended up talking to them about his water rights and really never got into
okay.
topics. He still plans on that, but I got a message that he's trying to get that amendment through. So he's
Yeah.
kind of like,
That's his priority right
really
now.
focusing on that. So
Okay, so he hasn't talked to them yet
not on those
about
topics. Right,
okay,
about the
okay.
forum topics, but I think if you as a group, if you appreciate you drafting that, Nisha, that if you actually wanted to take that and just say, these are a few topics that we have in mind that we would like to discuss. Do you have any others, or any of these a priority? Which ones would be a priority for you? That's the way to go about it, as opposed to just giving them the dozen that are there. You could maybe narrow it down to what, you know, something, and include something more local, whether it's the Springs issues, or, which I imagine that would, I think Jeff's right, I think that would rank probably, if not the top issue, but it's definitely up there. But
Yeah. So the letter that I drafted, you're saying basically tack on to that a few issues. Say these are ones that we're considering. Do you have any feedback on those, or any other ideas that you think are important? Something like that. And then would I email? I'm sorry, because I've never done the letter thing. Would I email them the letter, or do you email them the letter, or how does that work?
good question. I think we would, Steve would be able to send it to them, to the
Okay.
commissioners on your behalf. I think that's the way they typically would do it. So, yeah, if you just want to revise it, send it draft back to me and to Steve and I, and we can look at it to see if there's, and then we can go from there, and then you can just sign it and we can send it.
Because what I'm thinking is, let's pick out a few topics. It sounds like there's a few that are kind of coming up to the surface as important ones or potentially good topics. And then we can do that. And then if we want to go ahead and try to get somebody as a speaker for next meeting on one of those topics, because I mean, that's how it goes anyway. Like, you know, we kind of decide on an important topic and then we
Right.
say, hey, let's invite somebody to talk. So I mean, we could preempt that and just go ahead and maybe get a speaker on one of the topics that come next meeting, unless we have something else going on. So does everybody have the agenda with in front of them?
I can pull it up if you know. Here, let me just share the screen.
Sure, thanks.
Well, very good. Nice.
So,
Thanks, Mark.
yeah. These are the
So,
items that were listed.
so the impacts of going septic to sewer, that one we definitely want to keep in. Is the phrasing good on that? Or Jeff, do you have any?
That's the kind of commonly accepted phraseology, septic to
Okay.
sewer. I that's been used now for quite a few years. If everyone else would agree, I'd say that's probably accurate.
Okay. Okay, so we'll keep that one in. Do we want to throw in the wildflower thing, or is that?
Nah, I think, I mean, I appreciate what Bettina was, because I don't know that that's would rank high on what the commissioners would see as a recommendation. I think
Okay.
the vulnerability assessment, which you could have a speaker give an update on. I'd have,
Florida's resilience
I'll
plan?
check with Steve on he wants to handle, because I don't know that the Citizens Climate Advisory Committee, the CCAC, is proposing to do that themselves. I mean, they're doing the vulnerability assessment. I don't know if they're doing a forum yet. They might, I think that was kind of in their long range plan to do one before the end of this calendar year. So, but I would think that one might be a good one. I think personally, I think the blue-green algae issue,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
that's something that's really become a kind of like in the last year, really last 6 months has become more for Noonan's Lake and La Clusa. That's like, has not been as prevalent as it has been in past. And so that might be an opportunity there to get something that's kind of on the forefront that's out there now, locally.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got 3 that sound like good options: the Florida's resilience planning and Alachua County vulnerability assessment, drivers of water quality issues, and the impacts of going septic to sewer. Does anybody have any others on here that are?
Yeah, what
I'll
I would
keep on.
say, what I would say is whatever's affecting these lakes either comes from municipal or industrial or agriculture. I think this agriculture is also important. And then I know and I'm one that believes we should be focused on local issues, but you know, this plastic pollution thing, and I am focused on this. I study this, read about this. This is catastrophic, what we're doing to the ocean. And I'm telling you what, I am Mr. Anti-plastic. I'll tell you what, I don't know what we can do in Alachua County, but plastic is horrible.
Well, in addition to being a problem with the water, the plastic is now being found as microparticulates, even in mountaintops.
Right.
And so that means therefore that we are breathing the plastic in and not just consuming it with our fish.
It's even in your blood, George.
Yes, that's right. So at what point does it become, and it's very insidious and very subtle. How do you make a true assessment of human body physiology and the biochemistry of it? It's, this is that's an important one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so it looks like the plastic pollution one as well. And then on the agriculture, we have it very general, agriculture and climate change. I know that we've circled back on agriculture several times, and even kind of started to dig into that one a little bit. Do we want to rephrase it or keep it that general? Agriculture and climate change. And I guess we could just keep it that general and then see if the board has something to say more specific on it.
That's a good idea, because I don't know, I think it would be interesting to see. They all have various interests, and in agriculture, they have various interests as well. And so I think that it would be interesting to see which ones that they would come back with in terms of which topics in agriculture they might want to, mention or suggest. So maybe the best.
Yeah, that'll maybe spark something more specific.
Right.
Okay, cool. So we have 5 that we can say we're considering. And then we'll get feedback from the board, and we can go from there. I think, yeah, all of those sound like good ideas, and they're all, except for the agriculture one, they're pretty specific, so that's good too. Okay, cool. So that's a plan. And I guess doesn't seem like David's going to show up today, unfortunately. Does anybody have anything else that they wanted to talk about? Do we want to try to get somebody to speak on the septic to sewer thing or anything else for next meeting? Just to have something on the agenda that we'll probably want to explore at some point anyway.
I think that's a good idea. Septic to sewer, and particularly if we're trying to gather information, I don't know what you guys think, but if someone can address nitrate and phosphate enrichment with respect to the nutrient enrichment to blue-green algae, and because everyone now, I mean, if we start talking about blue-green algae, the public is becoming aware of it by virtue of the fact that blue-green algae are also a health threat to humans, and certainly to poultry and wild birds and wild game, even as far as remote places up north, Montana. For years, for decades, there have been blue-green algal blooms that have killed cattle. Not a lot, but it's there as an issue, and it's ripe for the picking to get the attention of the citizens. And so the more we can learn from experts coming to tell us some details, I think the better we're off.
Yeah.
But question, there's no one at the esteemed University of Florida in the biology department that can't speak about the problems with blue-green algae, where it comes from, how it can be mitigated, et cetera, et cetera.
Very likely there are.
Yeah, I'm sure, Jeff, that there are probably several people that could probably do that.
I mean, I'm doing some research over there, but not in this particular area. I mean, if we had a few days, I can track down about anything if you would like. I could try to find someone that could speak specifically, not so much about, where it comes from, whatever, because I think we're addressing that in other ways, but, specifically blue-green algae, what it does, the concerns, et cetera, on that kind of a level. Like,
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Nisha,
Yeah, if you
I sent an email here while we were talking to the chair of the Environmental Hort Department just to get a name on the wildflower issue. Not that, maybe sometime down the road, if it fits in, at least we'll have a name to go to. We don't have to start talking to anybody right now, but at least maybe we'll get a name. I haven't heard back, but we'll see.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, in meetings past, we've had, yeah, even up to 3 speakers. I think 3 is kind of a lot, but certainly 2 speakers in a meeting is fair game. So if we get somebody lined up to talk about the blue-green algae and then potentially the wildflower issue as well, I think that should be fine time-wise.
yeah,
And you don't.
give me a couple of days and I'll get back to Mark by the end of the week. I'm here this week with I'll find someone that can speak or that will volunteer to do so.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And Mark, do you anticipate having anybody from the county speaking to us in the next meeting for any reason?
No, I reached out to Stacy and she was thinking they're gonna have a maybe July, that they are currently working on some code updates on irrigation. And she would be interested in providing that to EPAC. I think it's more design criteria is what they're looking at more at this stage rather than the big picture. They're not looking at reduction issues or anything like that. It's trying to get some more design features in the regulation so that people know what to turn to, really, I think, rather than just guess. But I haven't seen anything written. She's not provided anything preliminary yet. So, but she did reach out to me and followed up and told me that she would probably have something available in July.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to cover tonight? No? Okay. All right. Well, short meeting, but I feel like it was productive. And looking forward to learning more about some of these issues next time and seeing I'm curious what the commission will have to say about the issues that we want to cover and if they have any others. All right, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll see y'all next month.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.